Jack Martin, 148 games, 130 goals over his career. Born on the 29th of January, 1995. Joe, he will be a 29-year-old by the time season 2024 begins. There was a period of time where I'm like, are we going to see Jack Martin for 5 straight games? We saw Jack Martin for more than 5 straight games in 2023. And is it a surprise that the team started playing better when he was a part of it?
Yeah, no, it's not surprising at all. I wrote him off. I'm happy to put my hand up. I wrote him off. I wrote him and a few others off that we just couldn't get on the park, and it wasn't to do with talent. It was just like we just don't have time. Like we don't have time to wait for your body anymore. You know what I mean? Like we need players playing, we need availability, and we need players in those positions that we can rely on. But then in he comes and he puts however many games he put together in the back half of the year, and he was arguably the catalyst for that whole thing. Like honestly, we started scoring as soon as Jack Martin came into that side, and we couldn't score to save ourselves prior to that Gold Coast game. But he comes in. I think there was a point in time where every second touch that Jack had in between the Gold Coast game to, I think it was the Collingwood game, every second touch was a score involvement that he had. So you get the ball in his hands, and we're going to score. That's ridiculous. That's impact coming out of his ears. So I haven't had a number on my on any of my Guernseys for a while, but I tell you, that number 21, he's quickly become one of my favorite players in this side to watch.
Yeah,
very
no, I can relate to what you were saying. It got to a point, and it's not anything against Jack. It was just more like, okay, he was 27, 28 last year. First half of the year, I'm like, wow, he's been on the list a couple of years now. It's been the dream of Jack Martin. We've seen the potential. And I was like, yeah, like how long are we going to wait for it? And then it's so interesting. There's a few of them on the list where it kind of seemed to get to the absolute wit's end, and then they found whatever they need to find. We'll talk about Dave Cunningham in another preview. I think Marchie was in that same boat. I think McGovern was in that same boat. And Jack, I think the story goes that his lovely partner found something to do with the treatment for his calves and whatever. He hasn't looked back since. But the reality with Jack is that he played the 13 games in 23, kicked 17 goals. Joe, you look at his stats and it doesn't actually paint the picture, the averages and all of that. It's what he does when he has the ball in his hands, and he doesn't need to have the ball 20 times. If Jack Martin has the ball 15 times, I genuinely believe he's generating 3 to 4 goals a game, whether it's him kicking them or setting them up. He's that important.
Yep. You've summarised it perfectly. He's that impact player. We were screaming for a player in our forward half that could impact games like consistently and just have something a little bit different to what, Charlie's a different player, obviously, but he's a goal kicker, right? First and foremost, he's a goal kicker. You know that if he's got the ball inside 50, he's kicking a goal. But we needed that second and third layer from players where if Charlie isn't necessarily firing, how do we get him into the game? And Jack Martin brings people into the game. That's his biggest strength. Like we don't need to see 30 or 40 goals from him. It'd be great if he did, but his biggest strength is bringing others into the game. And we saw it with how many goals he set up just in that Gold Coast game alone when he came in. I think he set up Chera twice just from having that composure in traffic to have a look up. Can I square the ball? Yes, I can. Hit a player on the chest. So that for me is one of the most important roles in any side, is having a player that can bring others into the game that may not necessarily be having a great game themselves. They might be tearing the roof down, but it's the ability to bring your teammates along with you in those moments and having impact with every single touch that you get of the football. And I think opposition teams started to realize the impact he was having, because as the season wore on and as we got closer to finals, there was a lot more attention put onto Jack Martin than what there was in those first 5 or 6 games that he put together when he came back into the side. So, he's got a very clearly defined role now. And I think as long as his body doesn't betray him, and it's nothing against Jack. Like this is, some players just don't, they don't have the body that can hold up for 27 weeks. If you can put 18 games together, 20 games together, and really hit his straps coming to finals, he's another one that, he's going to be super important for us in a flag tilt.
Yeah. Well, his end to the season is really the part that gets me most excited. So, say his last 7 games, so from Collingwood onwards, kicked 12 goals, multiple times kicked 2, kicked 3 against the Pies. 13 games. You said something interesting in, I think, the Zach Williams preview about how many games and the expectation. I think Jack's in a similar boat. The idea of Jack playing 22, 23, 24 games, we're winning 17 of them, it would feel like. But I'm a bit more realistic, so to speak, about managing him. We know his body history, so it is about timing, I feel like, with him. Now, he may just blow it out of the park and play every game next year, and that'd be great. What's a number of games you think is a nice sweet spot for him?
I think anywhere between 18 and 20, similar to Zach. I think if you can nurse them through, these AFL seasons are as long as they have ever been now.
True.
It's a genuine marathon. You almost have to split the year up into 2 to go, all right, first half of the year is just setting up a position so that we can attack the second half. So you don't necessarily need those guys to be firing in the first half of the year. You just need them to be contributing and make sure that we get wins in that column, in the W column. Second half of the year is where you want to see the likes of Zach Williams, Caleb Marchbank, David Cunningham, Jack Martin, all these types that have struggled to get their body through a full season. That's where you want to see from round 14 or 15 onwards. That's where you want to see him put together 10 games straight leading into finals, essentially. Prior to that, just contribute, play a role, get your body right, work your way into the season, and let's roll from there. But he doesn't need to be playing more than 18 games, as long as those 18 games are when we need him fit and firing, essentially.
Yeah, I'm with you on that completely. Look, it's good to see him with the main group pre-season right now as we speak. Touch wood. He's training. I had a look at it. I had to think about it. I thought 17 games, he'll kick 30 goals from 17 games as we win our 17th. And then there's that other layer of, okay, we've got 2 bona fide goal kickers. There's a group of them now. There's probably 4 or 5 guys in the forward line where you're like, if we can get 20 to 25 from each of you, I'm talking about, Motlop, Martin, Jack Silvani, if he's playing consistently there. If we can get, 3 or 4 of them kicking close to 20, it'll just elevate the team completely. And I think Jack is at the top of that list.
Yep, agree. Absolutely agree. I think he's our most, outside of Charlie, he's our most dangerous forward on any given day. The teams don't know what to do with him. They don't know how to match up on him. He can play tall, he can play small, he can play up the ground if we need him to, and be that conduit between midfield and forward 50. He can play deep out of the goal square. He's got a lot of. There's a lot in his skill set that not many players in the comp have, and I think he's another one that just needs to get that consistently down pat, and we need to see that week in, week out. And the more games he plays, the better he's going to be for it, essentially.
Yep. Exciting times for Jack Martin. It's good to be talking about him like this. What about you guys and girls watching in the comments? Let us know. How do you feel about Jack Martin heading into 2024?